You're frozen. All right. Hello, everybody. I have to tell you this, first of all, welcome, of course, to very last live discussion on WorldView. We're chatting this over the past 4 or 5 months, no, maybe 5 weeks, 6 weeks. Every Tuesday, we first move from Monday morning, Monday evening, then to Tuesday. These are amazing discussions that we have enjoyed doing, hosting. We've had a number of you guys following us on a weekly basis, responding, participating in the conversations, and we really do love you off big time. But for logistical reasons, we decided that we're not going to host these weekly live discussions anymore because they take a lot of time, especially the struggle. I have to be transparent with you, the struggle of getting our participants to be there in the last minute, because to make these things exciting, we have to wait almost till the last minute to decide what we're going to talk about so that they're topical. But it's not always easy to get the right people to participate in these discussions. So therefore, we're not saying never, but we're saying we'll probably not do it again soon. We have to go back and regroup and think about how best to make this even more exciting and far, broader reaching, as it were. So this is WorldView. Welcome. This is where we explore everyone's perspectives on things that can broaden worldview. Today, I have Tepo Matiba, my co-host, and I have Houta Komani. We're going to talk about the ANC. We have to talk about the African National Congress. This morning, I woke up with news that there are people gathering around Mashatile who don't want him, not in a friendly way. They're basically saying, wait a minute, let's find ways to tip this guy over so that he doesn't become the next deputy president. It looks like Ramaphosa is going to be the next president. I don't know. Tepo, Houta, what do you take? What is your take on all of this stuff?
Thank you so much, Soli.
Tepo, can you hear me? Houta?
Yes,
loud and clear. Hear you.
Loud and clear. We can hear you. It's been a fascinating week. If you look at the activities around the country, some good and some really, really bad. And of course, we will and we must talk about the ANC. But if you look at the Human Rights Commission, the South African Human Rights Commission is now demanding a public apology from the pit bull racist Belinda Mago or Mega. I can't pronounce her name. She is racist anyway. So I'm going to park the pronunciation of her name. But they are demanding an apology. We don't know what that means because there should be consequences for her behavior. And then former President Jacob Gedleyihlekisa Zuma was seen, of course, widely in the media, excited with his former financial advisor, or his financial advisor and friend, Shabir Shaik, in Durban, KwaZulu-Natal, Umhlanga, and there they were opening a restaurant called Zuma. And it looks a top 5-star. They had a movement of sort that looked like there was a wedding of Sun City. It looked too big and to be true. I don't know who pays for it, but someone or a businessman came out actually this morning saying, no, it's not Zuma's restaurant, but instead it is somebody else's restaurant, that he doesn't own it. But we don't know. But he did praise it, and he had a meal, and he danced. We didn't see a problem with that. And now, lastly, the ANC presidential hopeful, one of them, at least Dr. Zulu Mkhize, of course, known for the digital vibes scandal, that I must say allegations from time to time, was seen, of course, requesting blessings from the Shembe leader this weekend to pray for him, of course, to win the battle for the ANC presidency in December. It's been fascinating, and there's more I think we can talk about. I'm going to now, of course, hand over to our colleague Houta just to talk about his observations around the ANC's elective conference. Houta.
Before you do that, Houta, let's talk about Janus Walus. We can't not talk about Janus. So what do you think should happen there? You know, the gentleman, the man who shot Yes. Now there's a whole thing that he must stay in South Africa for the next 2 years. He'll probably die of old. I don't know what he looks like now. I knew he looked like a swanky, youngish fellow
He's
at the time when
65.
he
He's
committed this
65.
terrible, heinous murder. Yeah, he's 65 now. Yeah, but some people look good at 65. I don't know what he looks like. We didn't know what Mandela looked like before he came out of prison. Many people had all sorts of drawings of him. Suddenly, this good-looking 74-year-old tall black man with gray hair came out. What does this guy look like? Is he angry? Is he old, sick? And I mean, are we doing the right thing to keep him in South Africa for 2 years, or must he just go back to where he comes from?
Yeah. Janusz is 65 or 66 thereabouts. He's still young. He had not been drinking. He had not been doing anything to waste his body. But what is fascinating is the deterioration of the intellectual capacity in the African National Congress, as evidenced by the posture of Gauteng Premier and Chairman of the ANC, Andrek Lessufi. His reaction is totally out of character for the African National Congress, as we know it. It is a neo-fascist. I mean, Janusz spent 28 years in prison, and he could have got a parole. He could have applied about 8 years ago, as I believe the judge has said. And the man has served. It's not as if.
But he applied, but he was denied.
Yes, denied many times by Masuta and the successor. The man has served his sentence. It's not the reaction of Lessufi and South African Communist Party, Solima Paile. It's like the man has not served a day. The case was thrown out of court. He was pardoned or something like that. Now, the Home Affairs Minister has made it clear that the man is still in custody. It's just that he's outside, but he's still within the prison system. Parole doesn't mean that you are free to go. You are free to go.
He has not been released. Apparently, he was stabbed. Yeah,
he was stabbed.
Apparently he was stabbed in. I just saw a headline that flashed in today.
Yeah, you see,
it was like he's stable, but somebody decided to stab him.
You see that now it's tragic that we have come to this stage that constitutionalism and legalism is being compromised for political expediency, because I can see what Lessufi, Dimpo Hani, and Mapaila are doing. This is party political. I mean, the man has been kept in jail all these years since he qualified to apply for parole for political expediency, not for any legal issues or outstanding matters that's supposed to be happen. I mean, the SSCP had always insisted that he should stay in prison until he confesses the name of the person within the African National Congress, presumably, who bribed him, who instructed him, who's part of the conspiracy. And we know that who that person was, is by innuendo in the annals of the tripartite movement.
I don't know.
So he was used as a pawn. He was used as a pawn all these years. I mean, for me, the refusal.
But who is the person? Wait a minute. Are you saying? Do you agree that there was a conspiracy in the tripartite alliance that led to the assassination of Hani, or are you saying this is really just lies? People are just creating a story, maybe to politically go after one of their own.
Yes, it's got to do with the internal ramifications of the ANC itself. I don't think anybody believed that he was sent by somebody who was a rival for the presidency of the ANC with Chris Hani. It is just those the internal wrangles of the ANC, Jacob Zuma versus Mbeki clashes in the African National Congress. So he was being used as a pawn. So for me, this is abuse of power. That's abuse of power to the highest degree. There's nothing. Yeah.
Right. Grover Rasmus there says Wallace should go back home. that he'll be better taken care of there. Sepp, what do you think? Do you think he should stay in South Africa for another 2 years, where people will be toying out of his house, and I mean, he won't have any freedom? Not that he deserves one, but there's some. But we should respect the law. I mean, this man has served his time. He's now out. He's about to come out on parole. But chances that wherever he's going to live, if he lives in South Africa, he won't be at peace, because people are going to be making noise out of his home, and there will be attempts on his life.
Yeah, look, his story is fascinating, because he had choices along the way. Firstly, he had a choice to disclose what actually transpired, who had briefed him, if there was any brief, because that murder was not coincidental. I mean, it was a deliberate hit. And so there is some information that I believe he owes to South Africa. And to that extent, it's as a citizen, I'm disappointed that he's being freed. But we live in a constitutional democracy, and that gives us an obligation to respect that constitution. The timing may be politically sensitive, because we are going towards the elections and the ANC's elective conference, and so people are prone to remember the past so deeply. And perhaps even the fact that it doesn't seem like he has shown remorse towards the family, and Chris Hani, particularly Chris Hani's wife and his children, and to an extent that they are saying they feel hard done, and she specifically says she feels hard done by the law. But the reality is that there is a parole system in our country.
But what would showing remorse mean to you? What does it mean?
Yeah, I think the starting point.
What does it mean to show remorse? What should he do to show remorse?
Yeah, before we go there, but the starting point of showing remorse is to reach out to the family and have an open and honest conversation. And I don't believe that has happened, given what Mrs. Hani tells us, that this actually didn't happen. He was supposed to at least disclose the details of what transpired, because so many people have died in a similar fashion to Chris Hani, and we don't know what has happened. Many people have disappeared. So,
but wait a minute. Come on, Sebo. This man was.
I was going to say,
this man was convicted on the basis of something. You can.
But I was saying,
Sebo, he was convicted on the basis of something. Surely, yes. It seems like you're going with the narrative that you don't like what he told the court. Do you think there's something else that he hasn't told that he was supposed to tell the court that he hasn't used? There's a narrative that all these political opportunists are taking. I mean, surely the information that he gave to the court that led to his conviction is sufficient.
No, absolutely not. It can't be sufficient, because in the world of political killings, you have to disclose a little bit more. It's very, very different to saying that somebody was shot at a pub yesterday.
What's a little bit more? What does it mean to you?
I've just articulated, and I'm going to reinforce the point that somebody's husband and somebody's father was shot. The least you can do is to tell them. We know the court process has taken place. There was the TRC, but at least is to go and tell them, or to invite them into your confidence around this is actually what has transpired. Right now, they are feeling hard done, because they are.
Come on, so you're not being realistic.
So no, I mean, I'm not emotional about it. I am struggling.
You are being emotional. Because you're being unrealistic, because you're expecting this man to say, okay, you know what, actually everything I told the court 28 years ago is not true. Here's the truth. That's what you're saying he must do.
No, absolutely not. I'm saying that he knows more than we know, and he knows more than what he shared with the legal system in South Africa.
How do you know that?
Because he's the one who. I was not the one who pulled the trigger. Him and his brothers orchestrated this exercise, and they've got to tell us who are the key people behind the scenes. At least, and that's where I'm saying.
No, No,
But
so
let me finish.
no, so come on. This guy
That's what I'm saying.
is from a country where they were anti-communist. Read this story. He came to South Africa fleeing communism, and Hani at the time, around the time, was portrayed as the big communist baba, you know. And this guy apparently said, "I'm not going to flee Poland to flee communists there to come here to be confronted by them." Nobody's here. What this guy, the older dude who died, said, "Okay, we're going to kill this guy." I don't know what happened. But I
The
don't
nice
believe
thing
that it has anything to do with conspiracy theories
no,
in the tripartite alliance.
no, the nice thing about democracy is that we can hold different views. Um, he may have, that may well be an imagination that he has created, that we must believe, a version that we must believe that he came here for a particular purpose, and if we follow the purpose, and it had nothing to do with the politics of South Africa. But it makes absolutely no sense. The timing and I think there are many people with different views. The timing of that untimely passing of Chris Hani was not a technical error or some what do you call it? some a terrorist from another country coming just for
So
one man.
all deaths of human beings is untimely. Whose death was timely in that? Just give me one death that was timely. The untimely death passing of Chris. All people who die untimely usually. I mean, come on.
No, not all
What are you
people.
talking
I mean,
about here?
if you get to live your life up to your 90s and so on, that can be defined as untimely. But I don't wanna change the subject to make it about me and my views on the subject. My view was to say that his weakness is, or his shortfall, biggest shortfall was not to reach out to the family in as a transparent manner as possible. That reaching out may be different for different people. It may mean different things. And I've started by saying that we are in a constitutional democracy, so we follow what democracy, the consequences of being in a democracy. And therefore, when a man is released and having served his sentence, he's free, of course. But did he show remorse, as I was asked? Absolutely not. Did he make an effort,
Okay.
at least in the eye of those who were victims, according to the victims, not according to me? Absolutely not. And
But Tsepo, he
really,
expressed remorse to the widow and to the family many times. He expressed
maybe,
remorse. He wrote a letter. The court quoted from those letters, and then Mrs. Hani didn't respond. He said he should respond to my lawyer. That's what you call restorative justice. When somebody's in prison and he has served the minimum that is required, he can approach the victims and they come together and talk about these matters where people express remorse or else disclose more than they had disclosed. They disclose to the parole board, they disclose to the social workers, and then that is what this man has done. He has ticked all the boxes, but he was
yeah,
rebuffed
you
by
see,
the widow and the minister. His first application was approved
And the
was
communists.
recommended by the parole board. His first application in
yes.
the early years of Zuma.
Yes, and that's what you just said is very important, because you've just outlined the technical aspects of a legal system that led us to where we are today. But humility requires other measures. And as I say, according to the victim, not according to the victim,
Which other measures? But Tsebo,
which
come
is
on, Tsebo, just stop
which is
playing
his
around here.
family and his
Tsebo,
wife.
wait a minute. We need Tsebo. You said he has not apologized. No. You said he has not apologized. He has
I
not
said
reached
he
out to the
didn't
family. That's what
show
you said.
remorse.
How has just told you that he's done so?
Remorse.
What does it mean to
Yes.
show remorse to you?
He said, I'm sorry.
What is remorse?
I've just articulated. No, there are many people who say they are sorry to us
Okay.
every single day who don't actually fundamentally.
Okay. We're not going to get out of it. Let's go. Okay, let's go. Let's move on, guys. Let's move on. Let's move into the African National Congress. How the
Yes.
Sepo was asked you a question. What do you make of what's going on around the ANC?
When a soul dies, the body continues to live for some time, and then rigor mortis sets in, and discomposition.
No. Is it? Wait, isn't it the other way? I thought the body dies, the soul lives for some time. I thought
When the soul
body
dies,
the
when the
soul
soul
continues to
dies,
live. When the body dies, yeah.
now the other way around.
The other way
You
around.
lose
What
first to
dies
your
first?
soul.
The other way around.
You lose first to your soul.
Okay.
You lose first to your soul.
Okay.
It goes somewhere in purgatory.
Okay.
If you are a Roman Catholic,
Okay.
it goes somewhere in category, and then the body lives for hours. Ne? It continues to live
Right.
until rigor mortis sets in a few hours, and then decomposition, and after 3 days you stink. Now the African National Congress soul is dying or is almost dead. You can see with the way the organization goes through the spasms of death, of heart attack. Huh? It's experiencing multiple organ failure. Huh? The brain is dead, and then the body is experiencing multiple organ failure, the heart, the kidneys, the nerves. Now, it's only a matter of time that the ANC totally manifests the external behaviors of a totally dead organism. But the engine, the computer room has crashed. Let me use those metaphors. Now, these are spasms of a dead organization. It will never come back. The infighting, the lack of transformation, the lack of renewal, the continued state capture, the continued infighting, and the lack of leadership from Lutuli House, from union buildings. This is an organization on its last legs. The soul is dead. It's just a moving corpse, dead man walking. That's my opening statement.
Yeah, we
I think people who don't know AB should be reminded that AB Gouta almost grew up in the ANC. He was very much involved in strategy making in the ANC. So if there's anybody in this panel who knows the ANC better than anybody else, it's Gouta. So he's a very, very unhappy person who saw this movement that he had given his love for. I mean, many of us have, really. Many of us, especially Black South Africans, we grew up looking at the ANC as this organization that's going to liberate us, give us a better life, make South Africa shine, and put it on a global pedestal. And look at what it's done to South Africa. But then let's talk about this. It's going into a conference next week or very soon, and going to come up with. We've seen a list of people who might have come out as potential president, deputy presidents, secretary general, deputy secretary general, chairman, treasurer of the ANC, the top 6. Whom would you like would you vouch for president and deputy, or for any of the other positions?
Who would we like?
Or does it matter? Does it matter what they come up with, or is it like
my wish doesn't matter?
No matter what happens.
I can only advise them.
I think the numbers are speaking, and the numbers are telling us something that realistically Ramaphosa is likely to lead the ANC, and he will be deputized by the current Treasurer General, who is now acting, Mr. Mashatile, Paul. But a lot of activity is taking place by the unhappy faction, or what we may call the losers, who are beginning to talk. We are hearing they're beginning to talk to Dr. Zulem Kize to consolidate that effort. And the current deputy president of the ANC is actually not completely also out of the game, because Gouta, as he knows, he can tell us, there's always nominations from the floor at that conference of the ANC, and if you have enough numbers, you can still contest. So it's not yet I would say it's not yet over. But what's more fascinating about what Gauta is talking about in terms of the spirit or the soul of the ANC is that even the people whom we thought are part of the soul of the ANC, for purposes of power, they are willing to sacrifice the ANC. And by that I mean you hear this past week, former President Jacob Zuma said, well, the police are actually afraid to arrest Ramaphosa. And then you had, you remember the few weeks ago, the conversations or statements by both Mbeki, Motlanthe and Zuma saying, well, with Pala Farm, this man probably has questions to answer. And then Lindiwe Sisulu keeps saying he must step down. Actually, he must step down now and that he is not capable. But I will let Lamini, you name them. Everybody seems to be extremely obsessed with power and holding on to power without thinking about the consequences. Now we're talking about the organization. We're not yet even talking about the country. But without thinking about the consequences for an entity and a brand called the ANC. So it's sometimes it's sad to see. But for those of us who are in this country who have seen the ANC damaging the country and really almost selling it to anything that's as a rand, we are not sorry to see this. And maybe there's an opportunity for other voices to come to the picture.
If I may
there's an interesting question. Wait, while you come in, I would like you to also think, if you can try and answer the question from Athais. He wants to know, was the ANC doomed to fail from the start, or was there a specific time in the past at which death became inevitable? I mean, remember joking, Athais, the ANC is not dead yet, yeah, but it looks like it's going there, but it's not dead. Okay,
the ANC is not legally dead.
There's a viewer who wants to know if you believe, but do you think over time something triggered a potential death for the ANC, or was it going to die anyway at some point?
Sorry, I lost you for a minute there. I lost you for a minute there. I lost you for a minute.
Okay.
Can
you hear me now?
I can chip in.
Yes, I can hear you, but I lost you for a minute.
Okay, Tepo, go in. Okay.
Tepo, take it up.
Okay, Tepo, go in.
Yeah, I'll be quick. Was there a time, I think there were a series of humps and milestones that led to the ANC that we see today. If you look at the second term of President Mbeki, former President Mbeki, that second term was characterized by what some in the ANC perceived as authoritarian, almost some people may even say bullying, and the denial to hand over power to the next candidate. And then the President Zuma came into the picture. Of course, there was Motlanthe somewhere in the mix. But President Zuma came into the picture. And in that era of President Zuma, the first term, when he said the center holds, gave some hope actually to those who believed in the ANC, that, there's some humility in the exercise and that perhaps the ANC would be saved. But then came the era where he had to make decisions, and some of his decisions or decisions that his government took almost really turned the corner properly for the ANC. When South Africans for the first time stood in the streets and said, we don't want this president during a democratic era, because it was actually the first time that you saw a nation protesting against the sitting president in that manner.
Against Zuma.
Yes.
Against Zuma.
Yes. Okay. Yes. So that I would say there were humps, but that was a ticking time bomb. And then this era, honestly, is characterized by high unemployment. Is characterized by the darkest days of South Africa, governance failures. I mean, you name them. I don't have to repeat what we know. And so it is creating a space, definitely, for people to question the credibility of the ANC and whether it will be here or whether the ANC will make an impact in the 2024 elections. I doubt that impact will be the same.
So going to the point, to the list, Seppo, you mentioned, and how the place come in as well. It seems, as we look at the numbers, Seppo mentioned the numbers earlier, it seems like if nothing major happens from the floor, Mashatile is going to be the vice president or deputy president of the African National Congress. And if the Pala mess becomes so bad that Ramaphosa has to step down, Mashatile stands to be the next president of South Africa, at least until the elections.
Look, if the Pala matter or any other issue, on the basis of any other issue, Ramaphosa doesn't win. Whether he resigns or doesn't win or something happens to him, we are going to see a disintegration of the African National Congress. It's going to splinter in a number of centers of power. He's the glue that holds the ANC, what is left of the ANC together. He's not a dynamic leader. He's not a powerful leader. He's not a visionary. He's not a manager. He's not an administrator. But he's holding the ANC together and the government for what is left. It's not an excellent thing. The ANC and the government are totally on their knees. But if Ramaphosa were to step down or lose, the glue that holds the ANC together is going to come unstuck, and the ANC will disintegrate. There's no doubt about it. The ANC failed to turn the corner many years ago. And it's surprising that there are many educated people in the African National Congress, like many of them are public servants. They know what means by organizational leadership, organizational development, organizational transformation. What is cohesion? What holds an organization together? They know that the policy, any organization that wants to survive, that wants to improve, it must always change with the times. It must manage change. It must lead change.
Otherwise, but I hear what you're saying.
Lead external change. Change will lead it. Change will impact on the organization. But why has the question arises? Why has ANC members not insisted or implemented programs of transformation all these years? Why have they not tried to improve discipline, adherence to the law, clean government, stopped membership rigging, gatekeeping, all those things that are destroying the organization? Why have they not stopped those things? It is because they want a weak ANC.
Yeah, but look.
Pardon?
Yeah.
The members of the African National Congress want a weak ANC. They've orchestrated these weaknesses, this chaos in the organization, this lack of cohesion, because a weak ANC is good for financial accumulation. So we're at the stage that nobody is willing or capable of turning the organization around. There's no program of renewal. I didn't see any program. Did you? About discipline, about finances, about membership, about clean audits. Nothing. People are not disciplined. People do as they wish. The Lusufis of this world do whatever they want.
So what?
So this is what the ANC, they want this ANC.
Hold. I want us to talk. Yes. Okay, gentlemen, I would like you let's talk about the past is the past. This is what happened. There's nothing we can do about it. Let's talk about what could possibly come out of the conference and what it would mean for South Africa. Okay, let's talk about how they got here. Let's talk about what do you think you see coming out of the conference and what you think it means for South Africa in the short to medium term.
No, they broke the ANC deliberately so that they can use the ANC as the conduit to steal from the public service. They first captured the ANC so that they would capture government. So they captured the government.
Okay. So what do you think is going to come? The ANC is going to this conference leaders, and whoever comes out at the top of the ANC has got ramifications for the trajectory that South Africa is taking economically, politically. What should South Africa expect from the conference that's happening in 2 weeks?
Yeah, so remember that what we're dealing with now is an elective conference, and the policy conference took place already, I think, earlier this year. And the policy documents, I believe, are freely available on the ANC's website, at least. I think most of those documents, it was a public discussion. So most of those documents are available for review. So we shouldn't expect any policy shifts after the conference, because that's what it's supposed to do. But there is a possibility here that between now and the conference, which affects post-conference, that there might be other findings that affect Phala Phala. Because without Phala Phala, President Cyril Ramaphosa actually will be the president of the ANC. We take it as that, given the numbers that he commands from branches. But if there are adverse findings by the panel of three or any of the regulatory institutions that are looking into Phala Phala, we might end up with Magashule as running for president of the country, because Mkhize can't run alone. And besides, even if you were to run, you can see that the numbers are not completely in his favor. I mean, he's on some 900, and he comes from one of the biggest, if not the biggest, provinces in terms of ANC numbers, KwaZulu-Natal. And so that already tells you a story that we might be left with Magashule. I nearly said Magashule. We might be left with Paul Mashatile and one Ronald Lamola as a deputy of which makes for an interesting dynamic if that happens. But if we assume that things remain the same as we are today, the outcome for me means that Ramaphosa continues as president. He tries his journey towards disposing of corruption, but the disposal of state-owned entities that are dysfunctional will be accelerated as he attempts to recover money, but also as he attempts to stabilize the country. Because without some degree of stability, the ANC is going to struggle in 2024. And so those are some of the basic outcomes that we may expect, that he's trying to consolidate, at least keep the country functional, so that the ANC is slightly believable in 2024 to the voting population.
What do you think of Mashatile's politics? I mean, where does he stand? Is he RET? Is he Ramaphosa? Is he something else? If Mashatile becomes president, is the Zondo Commission, or are the Zondo Commission reports, recommendations going to be carried out, or is it going to frustrate them?
I'll leave that for Gauta.
Thank you. Well, Paul Mashatile has never been a dynamic leader. He's not somebody who's known for competency. He has never been a competent leader, whether it's a Gauteng government leader or a deputy minister of arts and culture or a minister in Zuma's cabinet or in the UDF. He has never distinguished himself anyhow. So he's an ANC member through and through. He's risen through the ranks, not through honesty or ethical leadership. He has been part of the chaos, the machinations within the African National Congress to get to the top. There's nobody who's clean there. He's not clean, and he can't suddenly have a Damascene experience and start implementing government policy on anti-corruption programs. He won't do anything of the sort. Political expediency is what he's good at. And right now, everybody is doing what the minimum that is required to stay in power. and hoping that they stay on the right side of the majority of ANC members. They
remember,
share the same values, and the values are not about the transformation of the country.
Yeah, but
The
remember
values are
that
not good government.
Yeah, but remember that
Sorry?
the ANC the ANC is still split between the RT faction and the faction around
Yes.
Ramaphosa, right? So whoever
RT
becomes
faction is
president,
weak.
yeah.
RT
So
faction is weak.
okay, so if Mashatile becomes president, he doesn't have to be looking over his shoulders for the Ace Mahashules and the Zumas and all these, but the was the settlement who was finance minister now, who's making a lot of noise. Kingaba and all these people who support Zuma, because they still don't like Ramaphosa. Is it just the Ramaphosa, or is it? Remember, Sepo talks about the policy conferences. In the last policy conference, one of the things they decided on was to nationalize the Reserve Bank, the South African Reserve Bank. And to his credit, I give him credit, Ramaphosa said, "No, we're not doing this." He didn't say that to them, of course, but he's like really just taking all the time that he can. But I think he did make it clear at some point that nationalizing the South African Reserve Bank is not the right way to go. If anybody else coming in and saying, "Hey, we decided already that we're going to nationalize the bank; it must be nationalized," and I can tell you that anything you nationalize under the African National Congress is going to end up like ESCOM, like Transnet, like PRASA. Yeah, whatever things it touches crumbles into dust. So don't you think we should hope that Ramaphosa stays in power? I said it. I shouldn't say it, but I said it because it's the least of the devils.
Hope so too. I hope so too, because the cupboard is empty. I hope Ramaphosa stays because the cupboard is empty. The alternatives are too ghastly to contemplate. He's not a dynamic visionary leader. He's not uniting the country at all. He's not coming up with transformation policies, structural reforms that are required. He's not doing much. But at least it's not bad.
Yeah.
It's not as bad as
Seppo, before you come in there, I want to make this person live in wisdom says the most strategic thing to do is getting young leadership with clean reputation, public displays of getting rid of current ministers and all. I don't know what people tend to think that age determines whether somebody is going to be a good leader or not. I don't think Malema, who was relatively young when he was leader of the ANC Youth League, and anyway, he's younger than most of these guys who've been in office since 1994. I don't think he's the right person. He doesn't have the wherewithal to become a president of a country as diverse as South Africa. What I'm trying to say is that you should just look at youth. Mandela was 72 when he became president. He was a good leader. All right. There are people who are older who are good. There are people who are young who are bad. We should look at the pedigree. We should look at whether the person has the emotional wherewithal, intelligence to become a president of a country as diverse as South Africa. South Africa will always be a diverse country. So I'm tired of people saying bring young people, let people in. The young people sometimes just bring emotions. The young doesn't mean you're smart, you're going to do things right. And old doesn't necessarily mean you're going to do things badly either.
Yeah, look, the age discussion in the ANC, I think it has to do a little bit with beyond what we are discussing now. It actually partly has to do with the fact that and I'm no longer young, so I can say this.
I am young. I'm young.
the older generation, the older generation in the ANC seems to hold on to power forever. No one wants to let go voluntarily, and that is the problem we're facing. You can't have a cabinet led successfully, really, that will address the challenges we have now, led by people who are half exhausted most of the time and who are sleeping most of the time because they are over 70. It's not a viable proposition. At some point, you do need younger, you need a balance. But also, one of the viewers said, we also need a balance in terms of competence. And unfortunately, what the ANC presents as a value proposition is not a bunch of competent, perceptually relevant individuals who don't have scandals. In fact, somebody said it is the ANC of scandals, because the current list of the top candidates who are going forward all have got skeletons hanging around them, and therefore they don't present a proposition. I think the proposition that is fair for South Africa is for the opposition parties to contribute far more meaningfully, so that there are some alternatives for the voting population. And indeed, I want to say this, and I can say it, so that we can weaken a party that has had a hegemony over our economy and over our country for many, many years, for almost 3 decades, without any meaningful change that people were hoping for when they voted the first time in 1994.
Okay. Houghton?
The attributes of competence have got nothing to do with age. It's about values. That's all. Values. What do you stand for? What are you willing to sacrifice? What are you willing to lose? That's what is important. You know, the Politburo of the China Communist Party, the average age there is 65. Donald Trump is nearly 75. And it looks to me to be capable to lead the US again, to make America great again, to make America great again. So what is lacking in South Africa? I mean, we used to have 35-year-olds, Trevor Manuel, Sidney Mufamadi, Popo Molefe, those kind of people in 94 who were in the cabinet. And with Thabo Mbeki at 52 and Mandela 75, it gelled, that kind of cabinet. But later you had 35-year-olds who were corrupt, 45-year-olds like Gigaba, Fikile, Mbalula, you know.
Basically, what we need to do, I mean, and it can't be for the ANC or for politicians to choose for us. We South Africans have to find a way to say, what do you want? To ask ourselves, what kind of South Africa? Having seen what we've seen over the past 28 years, we need to draw the line. We, the people, must draw the line and say, this is what we want, this is what we don't want. Yeah.
We need a CODESA kind of movement. We need. Do you remember the peace accord that was brought together Ray McCauley of the Rhema Church,
right.
Wilfred Napier of the Catholic Church and Anglican Church. Those people played a key role in midwifing South Africa. They were an important lever on the CODESA negotiators, on the politicians, and on the public. They impressed the public to come together to work towards a common goal to make South Africa great. So we need that kind of forum. That is a counterweight to the politics of the stomach. Yeah. Okay.
Let me read a few comments. Came back to me and said, no, it's not. Excuse me, Live, you write solely, SOLLY. Solely, it's not about the age, it's about perception. I agree. Age is irrelevant to leadership positions. It's a wisdom, recognition. Bring back the merit and drop BEE. Oops, I forgot. That would mean majority non-ANC. Trump, you shocked somebody with your Trump comment. Joking after he says, what do South Africans want? A home, a job, a meal, education, healthcare, savings, security, and service delivery. Give them that, and they will vote for you until the return of Jesus. Yeah, I don't know if Jesus is going to come back, but I also believe that South Africans really care whether the leader is Muslim, lesbian, gay, non-gay, for black, white, woman, fat, thin, tall. They just want somebody who will come and work for the country. I mean, we have the constitution in South Africa. Maybe some changes if we reach sufficient consensus might be made to it. But we have a great constitution. We had amazing democratic institutions. The mistake we made was to put the wrong people in them. I was talking earlier about some of the different institutions we have around the country, around the world rather. The ANC has placed all sorts of ill-suited people in those diplomatic missions. If you look at Washington, the ambassador of South Africa is one number Indian Fekete, who used to be a terrible, useless mayor of Cape Town. People in Washington, because I've got friends, I talk to people. They think that women is terrible. You can't even invite the ambassador of South Africa to an important event because she's going to embarrass you. How does the ANC get to choose these people to represent our beautiful, awesome, dynamic country in these missions around the world? Because the ANC doesn't care about competency. It cares about paying. It's your turn. It's my turn to eat. It's your turn to eat, comrade. You're going to be the ambassador in China, in London, wherever. Useless people. Children of comrades are sent as senior diplomatic employees to these missions, and they represent South Africa badly, with attitude, they're arrogant, some of them.
Yeah.
This situation is by design. This situation has been orchestrated by gatekeeping. The appointing people who got most to lose if they are not elected. You and I possibly have chances outside the government, but they choose those who have a lot to lose. Councillors who can read or write, councillors who can't keep up with the proceedings in the council. And we know some ministers as well who are like that, terrible, and they've been chosen. They've been chosen because they're incompetent. No, the ANC has always been afraid of competent people. If you read the Dr. Ibrahim Harvey's book about how the ANC went around sidelining Indians and Jews in the 50s, he said, no, these people are too intelligent. They've got a better education than ourselves. So that thing has come back. It is worse now where there is the stakes are high. Now, there are people who working in the ANC, puppet masters who appoint these people who are incompetent. They're chosen because they're incompetent. They don't want people who knows economics and Keynesian economics, macroeconomics. They don't want such people.
Yeah.
So
look, I take that point. Two points I want to make before we wrap up. Firstly, that the question of youth is important, because if you don't have youth in those structures, you don't have succession planning, and organizations that don't have succession planning are no longer here. You can go and reflect on organizations and such as Kodak, for example. Those kind of organizations are no longer around because they lack to foresee the investment in innovation, and you do that by bringing young people into the picture. It doesn't mean that when you're older, you're incompetent. It simply means that you need to balance the equation. And that's why I talk about balance. You also need to diversify.
But they don't want, it's about values. They don't want the young values who are dynamic. They don't want young people who are dynamic, who are honest, who are ethical.
Yeah, but Kauta, we must not create an impression that young equals lack of values. And that's why we're talking about balance.
But the DA has young members in parliament.
In the same way that they still have Helen Zille. But I don't want to go there. I think here we have a problem of an organization that is led by the same people, the same cronies, the same structures, and they protect each other and they stay in power forever and ever. The opportunity, I believe, is for alternative voices to come up. And the problem with our country is that those alternative voices keep creating small ecosystems for themselves. So we're all, generally speaking, a lot of political opponents of the ANC, opposition parties, are obsessed with their own individual small holes, as opposed to creating an ecosystem that is viable, that can challenge the ANC. Because if you don't have a viable opposition, you can't fault the ANC for winning elections and then appointing their own ministers and appointing their own. Of course, we hope that some of them are competent. And by the way, if you look at people like Dr. Gwen Ramaphosa, it would not be, and many others actually, there are many people in the ANC who are competent and qualified with experience as well. So it's not as if the entire organization is full of mad.
Yeah, but come on, Sebo. But the overall output of the organization, you can say, yeah, there are some smart people in there. The fact is, the overall outcome is consistent.
I have absolutely just said that. What you're saying, that there's a problem of a pattern of a group of people who keep each other together. It's almost like a clan, and the clan must be saved and protected over and over and over again. But the weakness, the biggest weakness right now that we are going to face as a country is you can't unseat the ANC when you don't have a legally sound opponent to challenge the ANC.
Right.
And that's the problem that we're having right now. And the ANC is not going to change its own philosophy.
There are many structural factors that keep the ANC in power. For instance, it's a lack of sophistication of the electorate, is the control of the ANC of the IEC, and is the ANC's monopoly on state power, the power for incumbency. They are able to take money from the government to run its campaigns. So there are a number of structural factors that keep the ANC in power. It's not just the opposition doesn't have a message. Thank you, Solly.
Okay, guys, we have 2 minutes. We should finish. I just want each one of you to tell me, apart from Ramaphosa staying in power, what else do you hope to see coming out of this conference for South Africa? Just not less than a minute. Seppo, you want to go first?
I don't think I want to see anything.
What do you hope should come out of this conference for South Africa?
I have no hope.
Were horses.
I have no hope. I have no hope of anything coming out of this conference for South Africa. Those are my concluding remarks.
Okay. Houghton, what do you hope to see coming out of it?
Apart from Ramaphosa winning, there's nothing else that can come out of there. Well, let's hope that what comes out, there's not going to be blood on the floor, and then the elected NEC is not going to cause chaos, further chaos in the government. That's all we can do. We can hope for, because if wishes were horses, beggars would ride, and the cupboard is empty there in Luthuli House.
Yeah.
And the locus of power. The locus of power is moving from KZN, is coming to Gauteng and Limpopo, looking at who's likely to win as a general secretary. It's Ramaphosa's advisor, and there's Paul Mashatile, people who are not from KZN. So the locus of power is going to move from KZN to Gauteng, back to Gauteng. But there's nothing really to hope for in the ANC. The soul is dead. The soul is dead.
Seppo, Hauta, there you got it. Look, we'll find an opportunity to have this conversation again after, see what would have come out of it and what it really would mean for South Africa. And to these guys over there, Joking Athais, Michael Lawson, Andre, Rosie Matabane, all you guys who have been tuned in to listen to, and those who've been following these live discussions over time, thank you. There's no way that we would have had these awesome conversations without your active participation in them. We're saying we're not doing it next week and the other week, but we haven't decided that we will definitely not do them again. So this has been WorldView for everybody, where we explore all of your perspectives on all these things that matter to South Africa and to the world we share. Thank you very much. See you again next time.
Thank you so much.